Jackie boy. Oh, my glasses are a mess. Let me clean these off a little bit before we get started.
How are you, Scott?
Hey, Joey, how are you?
Another day in paradise.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Where are we? I see about 6:59 there. Got a couple minutes here. All right, that might be a little better.
Your video, you want your headphones.
All right, mic on there for Jackie. Oh, I got it.
Oh,
There's Jackie boy.
hey, buddy. Get them nice and clean now.
Yeah, I know they're a mess. Well, and they're I think 8 years old or older. I think there's a second pair of lenses I've had in these, and I'm kind of refusing to go and look for new glasses down here only because up in where I came from, I was able to find a lab. What is that? Something just beeped at me. Um, Found a lab that would make me glass lenses instead of those plastic ones. Um, I was always of the attitude that I didn't want plastic lenses on my cameras as a professional photographer. Why would I put plastic lenses between my eye and the camera? I
All right.
want I want a glass lens,
So
better
we wanted a glass
quality,
lens, is what he's talking about. Oh, let me
and
turn home.
what's that?
I'm going to turn you, I want to mute.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. So anyway, I ended up finding a place that got me glass lenses. They don't they don't get those hairline scratches in them like the plastic. I call them plastic. I forget exactly what they are now. Even if you get the scratch resistant coating, I've always found within about a year or so you've got real fine hairline cracks just from cleaning them. Um, and that always drove me crazy. So although they'll get scratches, they get chips, and mine do have a couple of them, and it's time to replace them. So I'm just dragging my feet on it. All right. I see our calendars. The clock is ticking here. And what is this? Oh, there it is. Got a couple other folks trying to join us here. I'm watching one person. I don't know if they're getting a good connection or not. They're kind of hanging. Real quick, give me a chat. Put a number one in the chat or something. Can you guys hear my mic? Okay. Just kind of want to double check that before we get going.
I can hear well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I could hear as well.
All right. I think we got Josh joining us here. He was having a struggle getting joined in. All righty. Well, we are at 7:02, and that's usually the time I like to get rolling here. We might have a couple of other folks joining us. Showing me there's somebody in the waiting room. Hang on a second. Josh has joined, and Josh is in the waiting room. Technology, isn't it great? All right. Well, anyway, we are at 7:02. Time to get rolling here. My name is Scott Weldon. I'm the executive director of the South Carolina chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, also known as NORML. All of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. I always like to kind of start our meetings by welcoming everybody that has joined us today on our Zoom call, anybody that might be watching live on our YouTube channel, and also hi to anybody who might be tuning in and watching this as a recording later. With that in mind, if you are watching on YouTube, we are not monitoring the comments on there while we're live. So if you are commenting or asking questions, we'll try and visit that page in a day or two and get answers for you there. Or you can always reach out to us by emailing us at normal South Carolina. That's NORML South Carolina at gmail.com. Or track us down through Facebook. I'm on there more than I should be. All right. Let me just double check, make sure I have everything kind of where I want it to be. Before we get started, anybody's thoughts, comments, kind of open mic to anybody's feelings on what happened with S-150, where it is right now, what's your thoughts on what happened with the Compassionate Care Act? They caught me, it blindsided me. I mean, I don't think I was really aware of these contested, uncontested calendar type things, and that one person could just um, up and stop this bill in its tracks. One person. Um, and, if it wasn't this one person, it could have been maybe one other person or any number of people. And I'm still not completely clear on this. I mean, of course, I'm not a law student. I'm not a government expert by any means. I'm learning a lot of this as I go. But my understanding is the only way to have gotten the Senate Bill 150 to move forward on the Senate floor for its first reading would have been if Senator, I'm trying to remember the name, Hembry, Myrtle Beach, would have either withdrawn his name from the contesting it, or if 2/3 of the Senate voted to move it forward, or I believe if a majority of the members of the Rules Committee voted to move it forward. And we had days to go. That happened on April 6th. April 10th was the crossover deadline. Sorry, my mind's a little slow today. Was the crossover deadline where it had to be moved through the House and or through the Senate so it could cross over to the House by that deadline. That didn't happen. And that's kind of it for S-150 as far as I understand until next January when it gets to be brought up again, or when it could, has a chance to maybe move forward in the second session, the second half of the session. Just so you're all aware, our legislature works in 2-year sessions. And so it could be brought back up, I believe, next year. I don't know if it needs to be redrafted or changed or anything, go back to committee. I really don't know the process at this point. I'm still kind of shell shocked, I think, by having the brakes put on it so quickly, because we know we have a lot of support by the voters, by the citizens of the state. It's just our legislators that are using biggest excuse. Oh, it's not approved by the FDA. And if you've been on these calls for a little while, you know my response for that is being FDA approved doesn't necessarily make something safe. How many drugs have already been recalled that had FDA approval? There's that. The other side of that is also to get. Okay, I was wondering. Josh said it has to go back through committee again. So I'm assuming they'll have to probably reread it in again next year, resubmit, on the first day of the session next year. It'll be assigned to a committee, and then we do the same thing all over again. So that's where we are with that. Yeah. Yeah, I heard that somewhere before. Griffin for Governor 22. Um, that's why I kind of put up on our agenda for tonight. If any of you kind of caught it, I did get it out late as always. To talk a little bit about what is sensible decrim. Um, Now, Joey put in the comments we might have government decrim or descheduled, rescheduled by then. Um, I'm going to have to follow up with Justin Streckel, who is our political director at National. It's my understanding that even if they deschedule or reschedule, um, but specifically, I asked him about descheduling. Even if they deschedule at the federal level, it does not change state law. The state laws are the state laws. Um, Now, somebody commented back to me on a Facebook post, "Oh, if it gets descheduled, they have 30 days to comply." Oh, with the DEA, and I'm like, that that doesn't sound right to me. But I haven't followed it up. I haven't looked into it any further. Like I said, I've been over this with Justin 2 or 3 times already, and I'm pretty sure that there is no. Um, yeah, a couple people have said that or have echoed that, and I just don't believe that holds true. Um, you look at when they ended alcohol prohibition. There were still dry counties. There were still dry areas. I don't know if there was any completely dry states. I tried to do a little Googling on that, and I really had other stuff to do. I didn't get too far into the search. Um, there are no dry states in South Carolina at this time. That's one thing I did learn. Um, but it's written into the 1976. They always mention the 1976. I don't know if it's the state constitution, um, but it's written into that, and that's what would have to change. We'd still have to get them to move forward to change the state laws. Um, were it descheduled, it would maybe give it a better chance of getting some sort of because even the FDA does, I guess, approve herbal remedies to a certain extent. Um, I was on their website the other day. They do more than just. But as Paul Armentano, who is Paul? Our deputy, our executive director at National, deputy director at National. I forget. One of them. It's very rare that the FDA ever approves whole plant. They approve or uh, are involved in research in compounds for the most part. Um, I say we go for USDA approval. It's an agricultural product in my mind. But that brings me to where we are. I want to real quick. Okay, I just want to double check what's going on in quotes here. Take control of the capital would be interesting, but where I really think we needed to go, and one thing I like about the camera is it doesn't really show anything. Our decrim petitions. Let me go ahead and do a real quick screen share with you guys. A lot of people, I don't think, clearly understand the benefits or the differences between decriminalization and legalization sometimes. Um, and what our petitions are based on, they've actually been written for us by the folks at the Sensible Movement Coalition. They're based out of Ohio, and they are moving across the state. I don't I actually sent an invite to one of their members to join us tonight. She spoke to us on one of our cannabis conversations. I want to say back in October, maybe November, about the decrim petitions. Probably right after the elections when we had a little bit of looking for some content. But the difference in essence between decriminalization, some people I see will comment on Facebook, oh, decriminalize it. It will, that way we can grow our own and we can, be cool with everybody. That's not quite how it works. Decriminalizing it doesn't make it legal. All decriminalization is sort of a misleading term. Does is it affects the penalty phase of the marijuana possession conviction. Um, And if there is a decrim where there's a fine involved, you get a ticket. The people even talk about here in South Carolina or in Charleston, you'll get a ticket um, because they de-emphasized marijuana arrest for simple possession back in December in 2019 here in Charleston. Um, but that doesn't mean that it's um, not going on your record. And when you pay that fine, you basically just uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Admitting that, admitting to a crime. You're, oh, I see something up here in the corner of the red dot. Let me see what this is. Nixon was the one involved in putting it as Schedule 1. And that was all the Nixon administration. Uh, you'll hear me. I'm talking to Josh. Josh commented about, yeah. Uh, I love talking about the precursor to that. It was just after the Civil Rights Act of 64. A few years later, Timothy Leary, many of them know him as, the LSD professor, got arrested for marijuana possession. And he pushed it all the way to the Supreme Court and got it heard in 1968, I believe it was, which basically caused the 1937 Stamp Act to come crashing down. They found it unconstitutional, which sent the Nixon administration into scrambling to come up with a solution on what they could do to keep these things illegal. And that's where they created the Controlled Substances Act. Yeah, I could go on that a little bit. That happened all early 70s. I was probably about 12 years old or so when that all kind of went into effect. I read somebody gave a date the other day in 1972, which might have been the full effect, because when the Controlled Substances Act went, oh boy, here he goes rambling again. When the Controlled Substances Act was basically initiated in 70, there was a required 2-year study done on marijuana by the Schaefer Commission. And in 1972, the Schaefer Commission came back to Nixon, and basically their recommendation was to take marijuana off the schedule, just basically decriminalize it. It really wasn't dangerous. It wasn't, that kind of thing. And Nixon blew up, and Nixon went into one of his, racist rants and what's the word I'm looking for? He was um, some anti-Semitic rants. He believed a lot of the researchers were Jewish, and so he'd go off on these anti-Semitic rants all the time. He was quite a racist, but and he just said, fuck your report. I want it illegal. I wanted a Schedule 1. And as was quoted by Ehrlichman in '96, who was Nixon's domestic political advisor or a domestic political advisor, they knew that marijuana wasn't dangerous, but if they could demonize the anti-war left and arrest them for marijuana and arrest the blacks and infiltrate their communities with heroin, they could demonize them on the evening news. They could throw them in jail. They could take away their rights to vote against them. So for the most part, it was racist and it was racially motivated and it was politically motivated. Why marijuana is where it is today. Um, and people talk about different presidents. Sorry, I should come back to the share in just a moment. Um, People talk about different presidents, and I'll go into my minor rant a little bit because I usually am one that would say that over my lifetime, I watched and would support presidents that supported marijuana law reform, and you didn't see any of those. So I didn't really support any of the presidents we've had, Nixon on. Um, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean I didn't vote one way or another at times, but I generally am especially since I've gotten involved with normal, an issue voter, and the issue is cannabis decriminalization, legalization, um, and all South Carolina is doing is ramping up. Real quick before I get into the sensible decrim again. Um, 2016 simple possession arrest records in South Carolina, 15,888 were some numbers I had on my wall for the longest time. Uh, According to the ACLU report that was done in April of 2020 or released in April of 2020, the 2018 arrests in South Carolina were over 34,000. They more than doubled the arrests in a 2-year period while the rest of the country was moving forward, or not the rest completely, but a lot of the country was moving forward with medical legalization and adult use. Geez, and where are we at now? 18 states with adult use and 34? Are we at 34 yet on medical? I don't know. Anyway, I want to go back and reshare this just to talk about the sensible decrim. If you have a decriminalization that issues you a ticket, it still creates a record. It still gets you into this system. Um, and it's what we want to do with a sensible decrim is take away the monetary incentive for the government to arrest you for simple possession. So what our petitions or our ordinances or our, I say, the sensible movement coalition's petitions are uh, basically a no fine, no time, no court cost. Um, Here they have it. There's a very big difference, even over a small fine of $10, $25. We have seen if there's a fine of any amount, the police still issue tickets and harm will be caused to the citizens. With sensible decrim, the idea is that although cannabis is still illegal, the incentive is to remove the writing. The incentive is removed for writing tickets altogether, and is considered such a low priority. Tickets are rarely issued. Think in terms of jaywalking, which is technically illegal. Give me a second when I click a button here. um, that's exactly the result of a local municipality with a sensible decrim law. The priority shifts to bigger issues and away from the small time cannabis user, effectively ending the drug war against misdemeanor possession. The ordinance also covers other misdemeanor marijuana offenses such as paraphernalia, etc. And if I'm going to real quick go find this with you guys here watching, I guess. Um, I really have to clean up this page. Let's see if I have it here. No, here we go. I'll drop this link over here into the chat. in case any of you want to save a copy. But for the most part, the petitions start out with a little glossary of definitions: marijuana, seeds and plants, resin extracts, blah blah blah. And it goes through here. You'll see different chamber pipes, carburetor pipes, electric pipes, bongs. I don't even know if you can say bongs in South Carolina. Actually, you can't in a head shop. But for the most part, this, if you all can see it yet, yeah, you're still on share, I believe, is what we would want to go on to a ballot. That's what these petitions are all about, is to get this little section onto the ballot at election time in the local municipality. And it is that shall the city of Charleston adopt the sensible marijuana ordinance, which lowers the penalty for misdemeanor marijuana possession to the lowest penalty allowed by the state, which would be zero. You could be for the ordinance or against the ordinance. There would probably have to be, I'm assuming, the rest of this available so people can read it, because this goes through what is stated in the ordinance, and basically it's for the possession of more than uh, reducing the penalty for the, and it echoes what the state law is. 28 grams or 1 ounce of marijuana, 10 grams of hash. Um, would be consider the amount of that 10 grams or less, 28 grams of 10 grams or less of hash, or um, concentrate. I think it just says hash in here, um, and 28 grams of marijuana. And so then it sort of goes through: any person found guilty of violating the provisions of subsection D shall be subject to a civil fine of $0, and corporations shall be subject to a civil fine of $0. Imposition of such fine shall not give rise to any disability or legal disadvantage basis or conviction for a criminal, or any conviction for a criminal offense. Um, so again, we're taking away the conviction. We're taking away the basically the tracking of things, because once money's involved and you start paying tickets, then there's a tracking of it. And we want to remove um, I mean, again, for second a subsequent offense, the offender is guilty of misdemeanor upon conviction. So when we say you're guilty and upon conviction, it's $0. You're still pleading guilty to a crime, because it is a crime in South Carolina to possess marijuana. Um, but again, that's all explained in the petitions. This would all be available to the voters to view before they get to the voting site at their time to vote. And then this is what they would see as the question on the ballot. You know, shall the sensible decrim ordinance be adopted, for or against? 50% plus one, it becomes an ordinance. And then and then of course there can be other hiccups thrown in there. You know, uh, we've seen places decline to abide by the law, and then have to go to court and be pushed. We've seen it where, yeah, the ordinance would be adopted by the city or the municipality, but then the local law enforcement department or officers say, you know, screw your ordinance, we're still going to follow state law, and they just ignore the ordinance. And those things have happened. But that's what these, let me go ahead and get off of this particular screen. That's what this is really more about. Um, and this is a way that here in South Carolina, we can actually change the harms that are caused by marijuana prohibition without begging our legislators to do it. We don't need a legislator to give us approval to do this. We don't have to ask them, can they sponsor this or anything like that. This is done at municipal level. Can a town council or a city council go ahead and adopt an initiative on their own, sponsor it on their own? Absolutely. But if they don't, or if they won't, and I haven't seen any of them reaching out to start doing that, um, the voters can push it. Unfortunately, Joshua put in here about the smell being a reasonable reason for search in Carolina. Unfortunately, until it becomes at least medically legalized, I don't see that changing. I don't see a decrim going to be able to move forward with that because, yeah, according to law enforcement and our attorney general, the smell is an indication that a crime is afoot. Um, and and we can't change that through an ordinance. That's the one problem with the ordinances is they can't go counter state law. The only thing we can really do is affect the penalty phase of the existing law. Um, like I say, it ties our hands pretty well, but it is one way where the voters can actually make changes without having to beg the legislators to do it for them. Our legislators here in South Carolina know that over 70% of us want this passed for medical reasons, but a large number of those legislators are so afraid of adult use that they'll shut this down any way they can, and no matter what the 70+% of voters want. Um, Now, I don't think that's why they were elected to go there, yeah, and be our legislators. They're supposed to be our representatives, not our rulers. I don't think they're supposed to be our, our nannies and taking care of us and making sure we don't do things we're not supposed to do or who knows, they're representatives and 70+%. Yeah, I mean, even Tom Davis admitted that there's some polls that is over 80%. Um, we ran a poll, but we ran it on a free app, and we didn't get the full results we wanted. Of the 100 results we got, I think we're at 96% thought we should, uh, full legalization. Uh, but I would call that a kind of a skewed survey because it mostly went out and was seen by folks that are already advocates for cannabis. Um, Although we did have it out in some public areas, that's probably where we got a couple of negatives. But unfortunately, yeah, I like the idea of that as well. Because that to me is one of the between the sniffing dogs and the cop claiming that they smell it. My understanding, the statistics on the trained sniffing dogs, um, 80% of the time that they alert, nothing is found in the vehicle or nothing is found. Um, I've talked to dog handlers and trainers, and read a little bit on it because it intrigues me. Um, but a lot of the feeling on is these dogs know what the handlers are looking for. They're looking for a positive response, so they want to please their handler. So they'll give a response, whether they're smelling something or not. They'll indicate because they know that's what they want. And I don't know if any of y'all caught one of the uh, videos or news post that was on social media not too long ago about the police officer swinging his dog on the leash around over his head, I believe. Um, I don't believe these officers are treating these dogs like what's the word I'm looking for? As the professionals that these dogs are supposed to be. They seem to be, at least indicated by that, um, pretty vicious and pretty demanding, and um, you know, like I said, these animals want to please. They don't want to be abused. They want to please. Um, now that's my take on it. That's kind of my rant and ramble on it. Now, real quick, I think I turned the share off, so we don't have to get back to that right now. But we did talk about the petitions. My question really is, and the challenge is getting the almost what I believe needs to be army of people to go out and collect signatures. Mm. Just as an example, here in Charleston, well, anywhere in the state, you need 15% of the registered voters of that particular municipality. Um, cool comments. There here in Charleston, the last I looked, I believe it was 125,000 people or something like that. May have been 100,000, because I thought what we needed was 15,000 signatures. Yeah, population 2020. I tell you, Google tells me, oh my goodness, 140,476. Oh, we don't need 15% of the population. We need 15% of the number of registered voters that are residents of Charleston. So that's one example. I believe the registered voters in Charleston, I think that number was close to 100,000. And so we need 15% of that, which means we need 15,000 handwritten signatures on physical paper documents. One of the things with these voter initiated ballot initiatives is that you have to do them on a legal document. A legal document cannot be a virtual online petition, and it has to be a printed out document. So the very last page actually of all these petitions, I don't know if I can kind of show that real quick in the blur of your devices. That's an affidavit of the circulator. So here's an example. If I would send you one of these petitions and say, go out and collect me 40 signatures from voters that are registered and registered to vote in the city of Charleston, and put your name on the back and sign it as the circulator. If you put your name on the back and sign this as the circulator, you can't also sign it as a petitioner. So what I'd prefer many times to do with folks is send them to, and they have a friend collect, and their friend can sign one, and then they can put their name on their friend's petition. Their friend can put their name on their petition, and they can go out together and collect signatures or something like that. I'm going to do a real quick touch of math here. $375 of these printed documents, and this thing, I do double-sided printing. It's a 7-page document, so we really have it on like 4 pages. Save a little paper. 375 of these is what we would need completely filled, solid, every single line with a verifiably registered voter. Chances are it's going to be the number of those is going to be higher because you'll get a petition back with a couple of signatures on it, not completely full, or even if it is completely full, a couple of them on there might not pass muster with the board, the voter registration board, and all the petitions go to the voter registration board for verification of all the signatures before it can actually move on. And that's why one of the things, and I think it's written on the signatures lines, but we also, when we're training for these signatures to be collected, let our collectors know that they need to be legible as far as the printed name and the address. Excuse me. Um, because that's what the board of voter registration is going to use. And if they can't read the name properly or they can't read the address, they're not going to be able to confirm it. They scratch it off. That's one more address that we're going to have to go back out and collect. Um, we had collected back in 2019. We're now in 2021. I'm going to say any of the signatures that we collected now are pretty much moot. Um, Technically, I think they're still valid, but people move. Um, and so if they've moved, that voids it. That kind of thing. So there could be issues with that. I think we just need to start fresh. I really want to quick here take a peek at what some of the comments are. Excuse me. Okay, Robert's asking if I have these petitions for Horry, Dillon, Marion, Florence. I'm assuming those are all different counties and not towns. We only have them really for Charleston and Folly Beach, and also what's called the town of James Island, which is kind of a part of Charleston here. Uh, um, you can do them by county, but I've just felt at this point it's such a daunting task to do it. And to get new ones written up, this is something that I'm hoping that we can move forward on short in the near future, is to get new ones drafted for other towns around the state. And hopefully we can start a mass initiative, kind of like they're doing in Ohio, and go town by town and start getting these things going. Um, like I said, I've reached out to one of the members of the Sensible Movement Coalition. I haven't been in touch with them for over a year or I actually had a little bit back in October, November, but mostly haven't been in touch. Things have sort of dropped off between our connections because of the pandemic stuff. Um, but they're looking to do another conference call here in the state and see if we can kind of get this up and running again. Let me see. I see new messages on here. And one of the, as Kevin's saying about posting these some places, one of the issues is you can't just like leave it someplace for people to sign necessarily. If I would, let's say, go to a retail store, I'm not going to say any particular store, but okay, let's say it's a CBD shop since they seem to be popping up everywhere, and you would think that would be a business that would be friendly to our cause. The Somebody would have to sign the affidavit on the back, and that person would have to basically be the dedicated signature collector. It's not something where you want to really just leave it on a clipboard and let it lay somewhere unattended and hope people sign it, or that sort of thing. It's really more of a like a signature drive. Yeah, there you go. Set up tents. I know when I've had actually, they have a training guide from the Sensible Coalition. They talk about finding maybe on a Saturday or Sunday uh, permission to use a parking lot from some business that might be closed for the day or whatever. That might have an entrance on one end and an exit on another, and do kind of a drive-through, signature event, and move those around your community. Walmart would allow it. I'd have to double check with the management. That would be interesting. That would be interesting because it would be very easy to say, "Hey, come on out. We're at such and such a Walmart today." Now, where the Walmart is that I'm located near, I could actually set up a 10 by 10 booth just off of their property and still technically be on public right of way. Um, I don't know how many other stores are set up that well, or that way, but um, so what I'm looking to do in the next week or so, and I say that with a little bit of apprehension, um, because we're also starting to plan our July 10th event in Columbia, and I'm hoping to this week get the location, finally get a deposit put down on the location and secure that. But I want to reach out to Jolie Moyer, I believe her last name's Moyer, and see if we can get her to join us in on another call one of these Wednesday nights, and figure out how we can get the folks in Ohio to help us coordinate this. Um, uh, you guys are coming up with some great ideas on here. They've been doing it so steadily that I'd love to help them kind of guide us, if nothing else. I've been trying it for a couple of years on my own. Well, I want to say a couple of years, but pandemic shut a good part of it down. But we were out there. We'd set up our booth at different locations, and I'd be out there on the side of different streets with a sign saying, "Come in and sign our petitions." But a lot of it was me, and many times not a whole lot of other folks out there with us. I would on occasion get uh, actually one of my favorites. We had somebody who had to do community service, and because we're a nonprofit organization, all they had to do, uh, they had to do their community service for, I don't know, they got arrested somewhere in Colorado. So I don't know what their departments are like out there. They might be a little bit more lenient, but they were able to do their community service with us. Uh, and I would love to see South Carolina and Carolinians that had to do had to do community service, be able to do it, collecting signatures to legalize marijuana, or at least decriminalize marijuana. We almost said the beach day last April. Um, and again, pandemic shut everything down. That would be an interesting one. The problem with the beach, I'm here in near Folly Beach in Charleston. I would assume a lot of it's the same up in Myrtle. You hit the beach, and your chance of finding locals drops. Folly Beach is a um, off-season population of about 3,000, 3,200 people. That balloons to over 22,000 people in the season. So in season, try and find those 3,200 people or 2,800 registered voters or whatever it is, lost amongst the 22,000 or the 20,000 tourists that are in town. And that changes every week. It seems like you have a whole new flush of tourists come in the following week. And that's what we were doing. We'd set up our booth actually down on Folly, along Folly Road. There are some other spots in Charleston area we've set up. We actually did get a little radio time with, I want to say Rock 105 or something like that, with one of the radio stations when we first kicked off. But like I say, things kind of petered out for us because Charleston's a challenge. I don't know if you all know Charleston real well, but Charleston, especially on the area I live at, I live on James Island, and James Island, I feel is reminiscent of a patchwork quilt. You can have it's divided between the city of Charleston, the town of James Island, and unincorporated Charleston County. So you might have one house that's the city of Charleston, and across the street you might have somebody that's at James Island, and then their neighbor over there is an unincorporated property that's just county unincorporated. The only person that could sign the Charleston petition is the Charleston person, not the James Island. That's why we had a James Island petition. And Folly was a small target that we thought we could kind of hit that one because we only needed about 400 signatures. But getting down there at the right time of the year and finding those signatures was where we faced the challenge. Yeah, we got a lot of high profile folk. We haven't had them contacting us for, uh, and I'm not sure, I mean, geez, Bill Murray's supposed to be in the community and a cannabis supporter. Um, you know, maybe we're too small time. I don't know. If we could really get some momentum and get something going, uh, yeah, we might see more of that. I would love to see more of that. And that's where it is. I think it really needs to start with that. My one challenge, I don't want to say my one challenge. One challenge we do face, or that I've seen in the past, is there's a lot of cannabis supporters out there for medical marijuana, but they're not necessarily supporters of decriminalization, or they're not necessarily supporters of ending prohibition, or so those organizations I don't see necessarily getting involved in helping us with this effort. Uh, Organizations like the ACLU of South Carolina, I could see them trying to help get involved or get somewhat involved with this because they have, a marijuana policy. They did that research or that report that came out last April, um, that probably most of you have heard me refer to a number of times, or if not, have at least heard some of the statistics on the marijuana arrests here in South Carolina, let alone throughout the U.S. Um, and that's also, I got to kind of admit, one of the things that I'm hoping that our July 10th event will be able to highlight is reasons to decriminalize. And maybe we can get some of the folks that are not always our staunchest supporters, but still want medical marijuana to understand the harms that come from criminalization of simple possession like this, to patients as well as to other other cannabis consumers. Um, so let me just real quick see what's going on. Anything else in comments here? There was, and I don't know what happened to it. Kevin Howard here just mentioned, posted something about Scott Mann in Myrtle Beach. Is easy to approach. Somebody at Wave 104. Uh, there was a group at one point in Myrtle Beach trying to do a sensible movement petition. Um, because I saw the crew the crew from Ohio came down and did a road trip to Myrtle Beach. I don't know what happened, if that's the same person that was trying to start the Myrtle Beach chapter of Normal, and if it is that same person, my understanding is he moved out of state. Um, so I don't know what happened to that, but the 80% number on residents for medical, that one came from a Democratic primary question, and I believe the number there was about 82%. Um, the numbers across the board, we guesstimate, excuse me, across the state, I believe are in that 70 to 80 range. I mean, it's up there. It's up there for medical. There's a lot of people that are starting to realize it's not a gateway. It's not more dangerous than, actually, a lot of people are starting to understand it's less dangerous than alcohol and tobacco. Um, but there's still the hardliners. Yeah. Yes, alcohol is way more dangerous. Um, Kevin Howard says here he's a disabled vet looking for a win. Medical or decriminalization? Legalization. Um, yeah, yeah. And South Carolina is a hard place to look for that. That's why I'll go back to it one more time. This is what I think is our option. I'll get a hold of the folks at Sensible Movement Coalition. I believe we'll try to schedule one of our next Wednesday night calls with them, and see if we can start organizing. We've got nicer weather coming upon us. More people are getting out and leaving their homes. And although I still recommend, being safe and being cautious out there, trying to social distance, wear your masks. Um, People are starting to get out again, and I and so are we. A good example is we will be out in Somerville on April 20th, 420. We will be at the Celtic Knot Pub. Um, it's an Irish pub up there. I've never been to it before. Last April, they were going to do a fundraiser. They do a monthly fundraiser to donate to nonprofits. Um, and April of 2020, they selected us. And then again, the pandemic just shut everything down. So that never really happened. They thought they'd try it again. So all month long, if you go to the Celtic Knot Pub in Somerville and get one of their give back items, they have a burger and they have a bowl. They call them Birchie burgers and Birchie bowls. And I'm not sure what the Birchie means, but um, let me go ahead and find a real quick link. It is there on Facebook. Come on. Let me go back and find them on Facebook. I know I can find them there. All right. Just about there. My machine's running real sluggish again tonight, guys. Sorry about that. Here's the Celtic Knots Facebook page. And let me see. It looks like they do have a website. I just wasn't finding it earlier. All we're doing there basically, what we're going to be doing there next Tuesday is we'll be there probably from about 5 to 8, 5 to 9, something like that. But next Tuesday is the third Tuesday of the month. I don't see Kristen on here to remind her about our newsletter. Third Tuesday of the month is our monthly chapter meeting. At our monthly chapter meeting, we usually try and do a real quick, brief overview of what's going on at the federal level, what's going on at the state level, what's going on with the local chapter, and our coming events kind of list. And again, like these meetings, we do these as a Zoom meeting. And we are going to try and do our first remote Zoom meeting on April 20th from the Celtic Knot in Somerville. So I'm not. It's funny because I was at a call with National yesterday, and they asked who's putting on an event for 420, and I chimed in. I'm like, well, I wouldn't really call it an event. We're just kind of going to live broadcast our meeting from there. And all I'm going to be taking up is we have our racks for our normal fact sheets. So we'll have lots of free marijuana information to give away, and probably have a couple of free stickers, and that's going to be about it. I might grab a couple of T-shirts just because we have an overstock of some small ones. So if you're large, don't expect a free T-shirt. I don't get free T-shirts. No, we have a couple. I'm going to look and see if we have a little bit of merch that we have to clearance with our old Low Country name. And we're starting in the process of trying to restock some of these items with new name. Matter of fact, I hope to have by the end of the week, maybe early next week, our new 10-foot banner that goes with our pop-up tent that will now say South Carolina normal instead of Low Country normal. Also, the other thing that's coming in with that shipment is postcards. If any of y'all got your membership badge, you've got 5 postcards to mail out to your legislators. We've updated those with the new name, gave them a little bit cleaner look, and we are getting a batch of those in as well. So we're starting to update. We're a poor organization, so the funds for getting some of these things together are a challenge. So y'all that are joining, we appreciate your help. It's keeping us moving. And that's where I mentioned earlier, we're going to have to look at, I think we're going to scrape the bottom of the barrel, but I think we're going to be able to get it together to get our deposit for this event space up in Columbia. That's kind of all I have for tonight as far as the decrim petitions. I say I'll work on getting Joe Lee and the gang from Ohio on and helping us get this organized. It's something that I'll put it out there, and I've said this in the past when we've done these things. It's not something that I want to personally head up the signature collection. I've got a lot of other tasks that I do for the organization. Many of you may know this is a volunteer position, and sometimes keeping up is a challenge. I'm looking for basically collection organizers, coordinators from different areas to handle it for those particular areas. As I was talking about Charleston, here's a good example. I was trying to, because Charleston's so spread out, I was going to find about, half a dozen or a dozen different coordinators, because I wanted somebody in James Island. I wanted somebody on Daniel Island, which is still part of Charleston. I wanted somebody, in downtown Charleston, and that was only 3. John's Island, parts of that, or Charleston. West Ashley, a lot of that is Charleston. So so it's like I wanted these different people in different parts of Charleston that knew the area, that they could start to help coordinate their area for collecting signatures. So that to me, is going to be one of the biggest challenges, is to find those coordinators to really help us start gathering signatures. And what time is it? Oh shit, I've been talking for over an hour on this. I'm sorry, y'all. That's why I always thought that Folly would be so easy with 400 people, but it just never proved to be. I just saw it was 8 o'clock, after 8. I'm going to end this all so I don't make it sit through any more of my ramble. Come on back next week. We will have more discussion on, that'll be 421. We'll have a little bit more discussion on moving forward with the decrim petitions and what we can try and do at municipal levels. I will hopefully have a representative of the Sensible Movement Coalition on board. And also watch this week for information on the 420 event, or not 420 event, I'm sorry, the 710 event. I'll be getting a hold of you, Josh, on some of this, and I don't see Daniel on tonight at the moment. Also up in the Columbia area, to sort of rough out some of our thoughts on what we might need your assistance with. Otherwise, if you need to contact me, you can find us on the web at normalsc.org. Always on Facebook, a little bit too often. You can message me through Twitter and Instagram. I eventually find out how that one works. And don't forget to follow our YouTube channel. If you need to email me, it is normalsouthcarolina@gmail.com. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Sorry for rambling so long. I didn't realize how much I was talking. If you get a chance, come on out and see us at Somerville. Watch our website, and actually I'll get a post on that on our blog. Watch our website and watch our social media for more information on that. That's all I have, unless anybody else has anything they want to chime in with here last minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say goodnight and thank you for joining me. We'll see you right back here on 420 at 7 p.m. if you can make it, and 421 at 7 p.m. Catch y'all later. Thanks for joining me.